It was a quiet evening at one of the most elegant restaurants in the city, the kind where the chandeliers sparkled and the air smelled faintly of expensive perfume mixed with fresh bread from the kitchen. The restaurant was buzzing with people, though not loudly. Conversations were soft, filled with polite laughter and the clinking of fine china. Among the waitstaff moved a young woman who had been working there for years. She was diligent, careful, and always polite to the customers. No one really noticed her beyond the fact that she brought drinks and meals to the tables on time. She moved with quiet grace, carrying trays effortlessly, always making sure nothing spilled and every customer felt attended to. The restaurant had a grand piano in the corner, polished to a shine. It was not often played, mostly sitting as a decoration, though it had been used for small performances before. The young woman had noticed it countless times during her shifts, her fingers itching to touch it, but she had never had the courage. She was shy and humble, not one to seek attention. Most people assumed she was just another waitress, nothing more. But inside, she carried a secret love for music. For years, she had been practicing piano in secret, learning songs from old books and videos, dreaming that one day she might play in front of people who would actually listen. On this particular evening, a millionaire known for his extravagant lifestyle and playful sense of humor was dining at the restaurant. He was a regular and loved to observe people, sometimes making jokes or giving small challenges to entertain himself. He noticed the young waitress moving around the tables, her calm presence contrasting with the fancy chaos of the room. She was polite, but there was something about her posture and her quiet confidence that caught his attention. He smirked to himself, deciding to have a little fun. He leaned back in his chair and called her over. She approached politely, keeping her eyes on him, unaware of what he had in mind. "I dare you to play the piano," he said loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. His voice carried a tone of teasing challenge, and a few patrons turned to see what he was talking about. Laughter bubbled up around the room. No one expected the young woman to accept. After all, she was just a waitress, and who would dare take a millionaire's dare? The young woman paused, surprised. Her heart raced, and for a moment she considered refusing. But then she remembered all those quiet nights alone with the piano, all the songs she had learned and mastered in private. Something inside her stirred. She looked around and saw the curious eyes of the diners, some amused, some doubtful. And then, with a deep breath, she nodded. The millionaire's smirk widened. He clearly expected a comical attempt, maybe even a complete failure. But the young woman didn't look nervous on the outside. She walked toward the piano with a steady step, her fingers lightly brushing the smooth keys as she approached. The room quieted even more, anticipation mixing with doubt. People leaned forward, curious, wondering what she might do. She sat on the piano bench, adjusted her posture, and placed her hands lightly on the keys. For a moment there was silence. The millionaire leaned back, looking smug, as if to say, "This will be fun to watch." Patrons exchanged whispers, some shaking their heads, some chuckling softly. No one expected anything impressive. She was a waitress, after all, not a trained musician performing in a concert hall. But in that instant, something changed. The young woman's fingers hovered above the keys, and then, almost instinctively, they began to move. She started with a single note, clear and confident. It cut through the murmurs and the soft background music that had been playing. The note was perfect, resonating in the room with a warmth that drew everyone's attention. Heads turned. Conversations stopped. Even the millionaire's smirk faltered slightly. Her fingers began to move faster, yet with a gentle grace. She played a melody that was both familiar and unique, a combination of her own practice and the songs she had fallen in love with in secret. The music was soft, but powerful, carrying emotion that the words in the room could not express. People's eyes widened. Some gasped quietly. Others leaned forward in their chairs, unable to look away. The restaurant, filled moments ago with polite chatter and laughter, now held its breath. The young woman's hands danced over the keys with precision and passion. She was lost in the music, unaware of the growing attention around her. Each note told a story of dedication, of dreams kept quietly, and of the courage to step into the spotlight when no one expected it. The millionaire watched, his earlier amusement replaced by genuine astonishment. He had not expected this at all. For the young woman, it was a moment of liberation. All the long hours practicing alone, the small victories that no one noticed, all of it led to this single performance. She realized she was no longer just a waitress in the eyes of the room. She was an artist, commanding attention not through wealth or status, but through her talent. Every note she played was a statement. That hidden talent, no matter how unnoticed, could shine when given a chance. By the time she played the final note, the restaurant was completely silent for a heartbeat. Then, slowly, a few patrons began to clap. The sound grew louder, filling the space, echoing off the walls. People who had doubted her now looked at her with awe and respect. The millionaire sat back, stunned, unable to hide his amazement. The young woman, still seated at the piano, felt a mix of relief and exhilaration. She had taken a dare, faced the doubt of others, and emerged not only unscathed but celebrated. That night, the young woman returned to her duties, but things were different. Patrons smiled at her differently, the millionaire nodded at her with newfound respect, and whispers of her talent began to circulate. She had touched more than the piano keys that evening. She had touched the hearts of everyone who witnessed her courage and skill. And for the first time, she truly believed in herself, knowing that her dreams were no longer confined to quiet practice sessions alone. She had taken a chance, and in doing so, changed the way the world saw her forever. After the first few notes, the young woman felt her heart calm, her nervousness melting into focus. She had taken the dare, and now she was fully immersed in the music. Her fingers moved with a confidence that surprised even her. Each key she pressed seemed to respond to her touch, producing sounds that were both delicate and powerful. It was as if the piano had been waiting for her all along, and she finally belonged to the instrument in that moment. The millionaire, who had originally made the dare as a playful joke, now leaned forward in his chair. His eyes widened as he tried to comprehend the skill unfolding before him. He had seen many talented people in his life, but few had the ability to command a room in such a quiet, graceful way. The patrons around him were equally captivated. Conversations that had filled the air moments before had vanished, replaced by the sound of pure music and the unspoken wonder of those listening. The young woman did not play loudly or rush through the song. She let each note linger, letting it breathe, and giving the listeners a chance to feel the emotion behind it. She had learned early on that music was not just about speed or volume. It was about expression. And tonight, her expression was rich and deep, flowing from years of quiet practice and a heart full of passion. As the melody unfolded, she noticed subtle changes in the room. Some diners leaned forward, their elbows on the table, eyes fixed on her hands. Others sat back, eyes closed, letting the music wash over them. A few even wiped away tears, moved unexpectedly by the beauty of the performance. The young woman continued to play, unaware of each individual reaction, focused solely on the story the music was telling. Her mind had cleared of all distractions. The rest of the world faded, leaving only her and the piano. The millionaire, sitting at his table, was struggling to maintain his composure. The smirk that had been so present earlier had vanished completely. Instead, his face showed genuine astonishment. He realized that this was not just a charming performance. This was a remarkable display of talent and dedication. He had challenged her lightly, expecting amusement, but now he saw something far greater. He watched as her fingers glided across the keys, creating patterns and harmonies that he had never imagined a waitress could produce. It was a humbling experience. Meanwhile, other staff members began to notice the shift in atmosphere. The usual sounds of plates clinking and glasses moving were replaced with a hushed awe. Even the chefs, usually too busy to notice anything beyond their kitchen, paused at the edge of the dining area to listen. The young woman's performance had drawn attention not just from the wealthy patrons but from everyone present. For a moment, the restaurant felt like a concert hall, intimate yet grand. She transitioned smoothly between pieces she had memorized, each song flowing naturally into the next. The audience was unaware that she was improvising in some moments, adding subtle flourishes and harmonies that made the performance feel alive and unique. Her hands moved independently, guided by instinct and experience, and her face reflected the emotion of the music. She was telling a story, not with words, but with the language of sound. Some patrons exchanged glances, whispering to one another, amazed at what they were witnessing. Many had underestimated her because of her role as a waitress, and now they were forced to confront their assumptions. She was more than her uniform, more than her job. She was a talented musician whose skill transcended the boundaries of expectation. The young woman's confidence grew as she noticed the reactions around her. She had expected skepticism, laughter, or polite clapping at the end, but the genuine admiration in the room was overwhelming. She felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing that her dedication had led to this moment. Every late night of practice, every quiet session alone at home, had prepared her for this chance. And now she was seizing it with both hands. The millionaire who had issued the dare finally found his voice. He leaned over to a nearby friend and whispered, almost incredulously, that he had never expected this level of talent. His friend nodded, equally stunned, and they both watched as the young woman continued to play, each note more expressive than the last. The performance was no longer just a dare, it was a revelation. As she finished the next piece, the room held its breath for a beat, not wanting the moment to end. She then played a soft, lingering chord, letting it resonate through the space. The sound seemed to hang in the air, giving everyone a moment to absorb what they had heard. The young woman's eyes met those of the millionaire briefly, and she noticed a look of genuine respect and amazement. In that glance, she understood that she had changed his perception, and perhaps the perception of everyone in the room. The performance was far from over, but in that instant, she felt a connection with her audience. She could sense their emotions, their surprise, and their growing admiration. She played with care, balancing technical skill with heartfelt expression. Each note was intentional, each pause meaningful, creating a dynamic and engaging experience. The audience responded subconsciously, swaying slightly in their seats, nodding in time with the music, fully immersed in the moment. Her own nerves had vanished completely. She was no longer worried about judgment or failure. The dare that had once seemed intimidating had transformed into an opportunity for expression and communication. She realized that talent, when nurtured with dedication and courage, could shine even in unexpected places. And she had taken that chance, embracing the challenge rather than shying away from it. As she played, she noticed subtle smiles forming on the faces of the diners. Some were whispering to each other, clearly impressed, while others were simply sitting in awe. The millionaire's earlier amusement had given way to deep appreciation, and he began to clap softly along with others, trying to encourage her without interrupting. The young woman responded intuitively, adjusting her tempo and intensity to match the room's energy, creating an intimate connection with every listener. By now, everyone present was fully engaged. Staff members, who usually worked behind the scenes, were peeking from corners and doorways, mesmerized by the skill and passion she displayed. The atmosphere in the restaurant had shifted completely. It was no longer just a place to dine. It had become a space for inspiration and wonder, all because one person dared to accept a challenge and share her hidden talent with the world. As the piece came to a gentle close, the young woman allowed the last note to linger, filling the room with a sense of completion and satisfaction. Patrons blinked, some almost reluctant to move, as if letting go of the moment would break a spell. The millionaire leaned back, fully aware that he had witnessed something extraordinary. He had started the evening with a playful dare, but he now understood that talent could not be measured by appearance or occupation. In those moments, the young woman realized that she had crossed an invisible boundary. She was no longer just a waitress serving meals. She was an artist commanding attention and respect. She had taken a risk, embraced the challenge, and in doing so, she had created a memory that everyone in the room would carry with them long after the music had faded. And most importantly, she had discovered a deeper confidence in herself, knowing that her abilities could leave a lasting impression when given the opportunity to shine. The young woman took a deep breath and let her fingers rest lightly on the piano keys. The moment she had been waiting for was here, the part of the performance where she could truly let her soul speak through music. Her heart still raced slightly, but it was a calm excitement, not nervous fear. She felt a wave of clarity wash over her, a sense that this was exactly where she belonged. The room, once filled with casual chatter and polite dining, had become completely silent. Every eye in the restaurant was on her, and for the first time she felt truly seen. She began her next piece with a slow, deliberate introduction, letting the first notes resonate deeply. The sound filled the corners of the room, reaching every listener without overwhelming them. Patrons who had been skeptical moments before were now leaning in, captivated by the unexpected depth of her talent. The millionaire, who had initially dared her on a whim, sat forward in his chair, eyes wide in disbelief. He could not have predicted that this simple challenge would reveal such extraordinary skill. As she played, she thought back to the long years she had spent practicing alone. Nights when no one was around, her fingers tracing patterns on the keys, memorizing melodies from old books and videos. She had dreamed of this moment, of sharing her music with others, yet never believed it would come like this, suddenly and in public. Now, every note she played was a culmination of her dedication, her patience, and her quiet determination. She let the music flow naturally, moving from one piece to another with seamless grace. The millionaire's smirk had disappeared entirely. He watched in awe as her fingers danced across the keys, creating harmonies that seemed to float through the room. It was clear that she was not merely playing a song. She was telling a story, communicating emotions without words. Some patrons closed their eyes, letting the sound wash over them, while others leaned closer, trying to see every movement of her hands. Even the staff members, usually busy in the background, paused to take in the performance. The restaurant had transformed into a small concert hall, intimate yet filled with wonder. Her confidence grew with each passing moment. She noticed the subtle reactions of the audience, the small gestures that showed they were fully engaged. Heads nodded slightly in rhythm, eyes glimmered with admiration, and quiet whispers of amazement passed between tables. The young woman smiled softly, feeling a deep connection with everyone in the room. She was no longer just performing. She was sharing a part of herself, her passion and her story, in a way that words could never convey. The melody shifted, becoming more intricate, and she added subtle improvisations that highlighted her personal style. The audience responded without realizing it, drawn into the music as if by magic. The millionaire leaned closer, studying her technique, realizing that this performance was not a fleeting moment of luck, but a display of true talent honed over years. He felt a sense of humility, recognizing that his initial dare had underestimated the depth of her abilities. The young woman's hands moved almost independently, guided by instinct and memory. She was completely in the moment, aware only of the music and the emotions it evoked. The room seemed to vibrate with the harmony of sound, and every listener was caught in the spell she had cast. Some patrons whispered to one another, trying to identify the source of this extraordinary talent. Others simply sat quietly, overwhelmed by the beauty of what they were hearing. Even the millionaire was silent, lost in the unexpected experience. As she continued, she shifted to a softer, more emotional section, letting each note linger and breathe. The subtle dynamics drew the listeners in even further, creating a sense of intimacy and shared experience. The music spoke of hope, perseverance, and quiet strength, and everyone present felt it deeply. She was not performing for recognition or applause. She was performing because the music demanded it, and because she could finally share a part of herself that had been hidden for so long. The millionaire, normally so confident and composed, felt a surge of respect and admiration. He realized that this young woman had not only met his dare but had surpassed anything he could have imagined. Her talent, humility, and courage had turned a simple challenge into an unforgettable moment. He glanced around the room, noticing the astonished expressions on the faces of other patrons, and felt a sense of pride that he had been witness to this discovery. The young woman's melody grew slightly faster, but she never lost control. Each note was intentional, each pause meaningful, creating a narrative that everyone could follow without words. She could feel the energy of the room, the shared experience between performer and audience, and it inspired her to pour even more heart into the music. Her hands moved with precision and emotion, demonstrating the dedication and countless hours she had invested in perfecting her craft. Around her, the restaurant was completely transformed. Diners who had come for a quiet meal were now fully immersed in the performance, their attention captured entirely by her skill. Staff members watched from the sidelines, silently marveling at the talent that had always been there, hidden in plain sight. The Millionaire's earlier playful challenge had led to a moment of genuine awe, and everyone present could feel the significance of what was happening. She transitioned into a faster, more vibrant piece, her fingers flying over the keys with a combination of speed and grace. The audience reacted instinctively, swaying in their seats and murmuring in amazement. The music filled the space, creating a sense of energy and excitement that had not existed before. It was as if the entire restaurant had been transported into a different world, one where talent and passion were the only measures of worth. The young woman's focus remained entirely on the piano, but she could feel the eyes of the millionaire and the patrons on her. She did not let it distract her. Instead, it fueled her determination to give the best performance possible. She thought of every late night of practice, every small improvement she had made in secret, and she channeled all of it into her playing. The music became a bridge between her world and theirs, connecting everyone through a shared experience of beauty and skill. As the piece approached its conclusion, she allowed the final notes to linger, filling the room with a sense of calm and completion. The sound resonated deeply, leaving a lasting impression on every listener. The young woman lifted her hands from the keys, her heart pounding with both relief and exhilaration. She had played not just to meet a dare, but to express herself fully and honestly. The room remained silent for a moment, as if everyone were savoring the end of the performance. Then, slowly, applause began to build. It started as quiet clapping, then grew louder, spreading through the restaurant until it filled the entire space. Patrons stood, some even cheering softly, unable to contain their admiration. The millionaire joined in, clapping with genuine respect and amazement. The young woman allowed herself a small smile, feeling the warmth of recognition and the power of her own courage. In that moment, she understood that her life had changed. She had accepted a challenge, faced doubt, and revealed a talent that could no longer be ignored. The respect she had earned was not just for her skill, but for her bravery in stepping into the spotlight when no one expected her to. She had shown that passion, dedication, and courage could shine through, even in the most unlikely circumstances. And she knew that this was only the beginning of a journey that would continue to unfold in ways she could not yet imagine. The applause continued to echo through the restaurant as the young woman took a small breath, letting the music she had just played settle in the hearts of those who had heard it. She had performed not just with skill, but with emotion, letting her years of secret practice and love for the piano flow freely in a way that had completely captured the attention of everyone in the room. The atmosphere had shifted from casual dining to a feeling of shared awe, a collective experience of witnessing something truly remarkable. The millionaire, still seated at his table, looked at her with a mixture of amazement and respect. He had expected entertainment or perhaps a humorous attempt, but what he had seen was nothing short of extraordinary. He leaned back, absorbing the moment, and realized that his playful challenge had uncovered a hidden gem. He had underestimated her, as had the other patrons, and now they all faced the reality that talent could be found in the most unexpected places. The young woman noticed the subtle reactions around her. Patrons who had once whispered skeptically now spoke softly in admiration, their eyes wide with wonder. Staff members peeked from behind counters and doors, captivated by the transformation that had occurred. Even the usually reserved chefs lingered at the edges of the room, listening intently. It was as if the restaurant itself had been transformed into a stage, and she was the center of it, commanding attention without demanding it. Encouraged by the reaction, she decided to play another piece, one that was slightly more complex and deeply emotional. Her fingers moved with precision and grace, hitting each key with intention and care. The melody was gentle yet powerful, carrying a story of hope, perseverance, and quiet strength. She let the music breathe, allowing pauses and soft notes to resonate in the room, creating a dialogue between her and the audience. Every note was deliberate, yet infused with the passion that had driven her for years. The millionaire watched closely, noting the subtle nuances in her performance. He realized that this was more than technical skill. It was artistry, a combination of dedication, emotion, and instinct. He had seen many performances in his life, but few had the ability to capture attention so completely, to hold an audience in rapt silence without any grand theatrics. He felt a deep respect for the young woman, understanding that her humble exterior had hidden a talent of exceptional depth. As she continued to play, the audience became increasingly absorbed. Some diners closed their eyes, letting the music wash over them, feeling the emotion in each chord. Others leaned forward, trying to watch the delicate movements of her hands, marveling at the speed and accuracy with which she executed each note. Even those who were initially skeptical could not help but be drawn in, caught by the beauty and power of the performance. The young woman was no longer just a waitress. She was an artist, and the piano was her voice. The music began to build in intensity, moving from soft, flowing passages to more energetic and lively sequences. Her fingers danced across the keys with confidence and skill, creating harmonies that filled the room with vibrant sound. The audience responded instinctively, swaying slightly in their seats, nodding their heads, and murmuring in awe. It was as if the music had created an invisible connection, linking everyone present in a shared experience of admiration and wonder. The young woman felt a sense of liberation as she played. She was no longer constrained by the expectations of her role as a waitress or the skepticism of others. Every note was an expression of herself, a testament to years of dedication, patience, and quiet practice. She realized that this was a moment she had longed for, a chance to show the world a side of herself that had remained hidden. And now she was doing it, fearlessly and beautifully. The millionaire could no longer contain his admiration. He had initially dared her for amusement, but now he was fully engaged, clapping softly along with the rhythm, nodding in encouragement. He saw the impact she had on the room, how her music had captivated and inspired everyone present. For a moment, he felt humbled, recognizing that true talent often comes from unexpected places, and that it can change the perception of those who witness it. The young woman's fingers moved with effortless skill, transitioning between different pieces seamlessly. She incorporated subtle improvisations, adding her own unique style to the performance. The audience was completely captivated, their attention held by the combination of technical mastery and heartfelt expression. The music told a story that transcended words, evoking emotions that were deeply personal yet universally understood. Patrons who had come for a quiet dinner were now experiencing something extraordinary, a reminder of the power of art to touch lives. Around her, the atmosphere was electric yet serene. Conversations had ceased entirely, replaced by focused attention and quiet amazement. Staff members, who were usually unnoticed, stood at the edges of the room, mesmerized by the display of talent. The restaurant had become a stage, the young woman the performer, and the audience fully engaged in the narrative she was weaving through her music. It was a rare and magical moment, one that left a lasting impression on everyone present. She continued to play with increasing confidence, aware of the subtle reactions of her audience. The energy of the room seemed to flow back to her, inspiring her to push further, to express more deeply. Each note carried intention and emotion, creating a dynamic performance that felt alive and personal. The audience responded naturally, drawn into the rhythm and harmony, experiencing the music as a shared journey rather than a simple performance. The connection between performer and listeners was tangible, an unspoken bond formed through the power of sound. The millionaire, normally accustomed to commanding attention, found himself completely captivated. He had issued the challenge casually, expecting amusement, and now he was witnessing a masterful display of talent that had completely upended his expectations. He realized that he had been given a rare opportunity to witness the emergence of genuine artistry in an ordinary setting. His admiration for the young woman deepened with each passing moment, and he felt grateful to have been a part of this unexpected discovery. As the performance continued, the young woman noticed subtle changes in the expressions of those around her. Patrons who had been skeptical or indifferent moments before now looked at her with amazement and respect. Some whispered softly to their neighbors, trying to articulate their surprise, while others simply sat quietly, lost in the beauty of the music. Even the staff members, who had seen her work countless times, were visibly impressed, realizing that her talent went far beyond what they had imagined. The room was united by a shared sense of wonder, a collective recognition of something extraordinary unfolding in front of them. She shifted to a softer, more contemplative piece, letting each note linger and resonate. The subtle changes in tempo and dynamics created a sense of intimacy, drawing the audience even closer into the emotional journey she was presenting. The music spoke of perseverance, hope, and quiet strength, and everyone present could feel it deeply. The young woman played not for recognition or reward, but for the sheer love of music and the joy of sharing it with others. Her passion was evident in every gesture, every movement of her fingers across the keys. The millionaire could not hide his awe. He had been expecting a light-hearted performance, but now he was witnessing something that transcended expectation. He leaned back, clapping softly along with the rhythm, encouraging her while maintaining a respectful distance. He saw the impact she had on the audience, how her music had captivated their attention and evoked genuine emotion. In that moment, he understood that talent and dedication often exist in places we least expect, and that the true value of art lies in its ability to inspire and move others. The young woman's performance reached a crescendo, a powerful and uplifting passage that filled the room with energy and emotion. Her hands moved with precision and passion, creating a harmony that resonated deeply with everyone present. Patrons instinctively responded, some swaying gently in their seats, others leaning forward to catch every nuance of the performance. The energy in the room was electric, a shared experience of awe and admiration that transcended the ordinary environment of the restaurant. As the final notes echoed through the space, she allowed them to linger, giving everyone a moment to absorb the beauty of what they had just witnessed. The room remained silent for a heartbeat, as if no one wanted to break the spell. Then, gradually, applause began to build, first softly, then growing louder until it filled the entire restaurant. Patrons stood, some cheering quietly, overwhelmed by the extraordinary performance. The millionaire joined in, clapping with genuine respect and amazement, recognizing that he had witnessed something truly special. In that moment, the young woman understood that she had crossed a threshold. She was no longer simply a waitress performing a dare. She had revealed a side of herself that had been hidden, showcasing her talent, dedication, and courage. The respect she earned was not just for her skill, but for the bravery of stepping into the spotlight and embracing her gift. She realized that her life had changed in subtle yet profound ways, and that this performance was the beginning of a journey that would continue to unfold in ways she could not yet imagine. The restaurant had witnessed more than music. It had witnessed the emergence of a remarkable artist, one who would never again be underestimated. The young woman paused for a brief moment, letting the last note she had played hang in the air. The room was silent except for the soft sound of her own breathing and the faint murmurs of astonishment from the diners. She looked out over the audience, noticing how each person was completely absorbed, their attention fully captured. Patrons who had been chatting before were now leaning forward, some with wide eyes, others with smiles of awe and admiration. Even the restaurant staff, who had seen her in her role countless times, were standing at the edges of the room, unable to take their eyes off her. Encouraged by the response, she decided to play another piece. This one was more intricate, a melody that required both technical skill and emotional depth. Her fingers moved confidently across the keys, each note precise, yet full of feeling. The audience responded instinctively, some swaying gently in their seats, others nodding along with the rhythm, caught up in the ebb and flow of the music. The young woman felt a deep sense of fulfillment as she played, knowing that she was sharing not just notes, but a part of herself with everyone present. The millionaire, sitting at his table, could not hide his amazement. He had initially dared her for fun, expecting perhaps a humorous attempt, and yet here she was, performing with a skill and passion that left him completely stunned. His eyes followed her hands as they moved gracefully over the keys, and he realized that this was more than talent. It was artistry. He had never seen someone command a room in such a subtle and powerful way, and he felt a genuine sense of respect for the young woman. As she continued to play, she began to incorporate small improvisations, delicate variations that added her personal touch to the piece. The audience was captivated by these subtle changes, drawn further into the story she was telling through the music. The notes seemed to flow naturally, as if the piano itself were an extension of her thoughts and emotions. Patrons whispered to one another, expressing their surprise and admiration, while others simply sat quietly, lost in the experience. The atmosphere in the restaurant had shifted completely. It was no longer just a dining space but a place of shared wonder and appreciation for talent. The young woman could feel the energy in the room, the way the audience responded to each note, each pause, each delicate flourish. She allowed the music to guide her, moving seamlessly between soft, introspective passages and more lively, expressive sections. The audience followed her lead, captivated by the emotional depth and technical skill she displayed. Every movement of her fingers was intentional, every note carefully considered, yet infused with the passion that had driven her for years. It was clear to everyone watching that this was not just a performance. It was a deeply personal expression, a story told without words. The millionaire could hardly contain his admiration. He had thought this would be a light-hearted moment, something to entertain himself and the other diners, but he was witnessing something extraordinary. The young woman had taken a dare and turned it into a demonstration of true talent, one that inspired and moved everyone in the room. He found himself clapping softly along with the rhythm, encouraging her without interrupting the flow of the music. Each note she played seemed to reveal more of her character, her dedication, and her courage. Around her, the audience was fully engaged. Patrons who had initially been skeptical were now leaning forward, their eyes fixed on her hands, marveling at the skill and emotion she displayed. Some whispered quietly to each other, expressing their amazement at the unexpected talent before them. Others simply closed their eyes, allowing themselves to be fully immersed in the beauty of the performance. The young woman was no longer just a waitress. She was an artist, commanding attention and respect through her music. As the piece progressed, the young woman began to explore more complex harmonies and rhythms. Her fingers moved with precision, yet there was a fluidity to her movements that made the music feel alive and spontaneous. The audience responded instinctively, their energy feeding back into her performance. She could feel the connection between herself and those listening, a subtle yet powerful exchange of emotion and admiration. It was a rare and magical experience, one that left everyone in the room feeling both inspired and humbled. The millionaire watched intently, realizing that this was a moment he would never forget. He had issued the challenge casually, without expecting much, and yet here was a young woman who had transformed a simple dare into a showcase of extraordinary talent. He felt a sense of pride and humility, recognizing that sometimes the most remarkable abilities are hidden in the most unexpected places. His admiration for the young woman grew with each passing moment, and he found himself cheering silently, moved by the impact she had on everyone around her. The young woman shifted to a softer, more contemplative section of the music, allowing each note to resonate fully. The subtle changes in tempo and dynamics created a sense of intimacy, drawing the audience even closer into the emotional journey she was presenting. Patrons were captivated, some wiping away tears as they absorbed the beauty of the performance, while others sat quietly, lost in reflection. The room had become a space for shared emotion, a place where music spoke louder than words, and where everyone felt connected through the experience. Encouraged by the response, she moved into a faster, more lively section, her fingers dancing over the keys with energy and precision. The audience responded naturally, swaying in their seats and murmuring in admiration. The energy in the room was palpable, a shared excitement that grew with each note. The young woman felt a sense of exhilaration, knowing that she had captured the hearts and attention of everyone present. Her performance had become more than a challenge. It was a celebration of her talent, dedication, and courage. The millionaire, who had initially doubted the young woman's abilities, could no longer contain his amazement. He leaned forward, watching every movement, every subtle gesture of her hands on the piano. He realized that he had witnessed something rare and extraordinary, a moment that would be remembered by all who were present. The young woman had turned a simple dare into a powerful demonstration of talent, and in doing so had transformed the perception of herself in the eyes of everyone in the room. The young woman allowed the final notes to linger, letting the music settle and giving everyone a chance to absorb the experience. The room was silent for a moment, as if no one wanted to break the spell. Then, gradually, applause began to build, starting softly and growing louder until it filled the entire restaurant. Patrons stood, some cheering quietly, overwhelmed by the performance they had just witnessed. The millionaire joined in, clapping with genuine respect and admiration, fully aware that he had seen something truly remarkable. In that moment, the young woman understood the significance of what she had accomplished. She had taken a simple dare and transformed it into an unforgettable performance, revealing her talent, courage, and dedication. The respect she earned was not just for her musical skill, but for the bravery she showed in stepping into the spotlight and sharing her gift with the world. She realized that her life had changed in ways she could not yet fully understand, and that this performance was only the beginning of a journey that would continue to unfold, bringing new opportunities, recognition, and growth. The restaurant had witnessed more than music. It had witnessed the emergence of a remarkable artist, one whose talent and determination would leave a lasting impression on everyone fortunate enough to hear her play. The applause slowly died down, leaving a quiet hum of awe in the restaurant. The young woman took a moment to breathe, her hands hovering briefly over the keys before resting in her lap. She looked around the room, noticing the wide eyes, smiles, and whispered conversations. The once casual dining experience had transformed into a moment of shared wonder. Patrons were still absorbing the beauty of what they had just witnessed, some leaning back in their chairs, others sitting forward, unable to stop thinking about the performance. Even the staff, usually busy with chores and service, stood at the edges of the room, captivated and quietly proud of what had just happened. The millionaire, who had initially issued the dare as a playful joke, remained seated at his table, still stunned. He had expected entertainment, maybe a comical attempt, but what he had witnessed was something extraordinary. His eyes followed her movements as she adjusted her posture, and he realized that her talent went far beyond what he had imagined. He felt a sense of respect and admiration, not just for her skill, but for her courage, her dedication, and the grace with which she carried herself. She had turned a simple dare into a performance that had captured the hearts of everyone present. The young woman felt a mix of relief and exhilaration. Her heart raced, but it was the kind of excitement that came from having done something meaningful, something that mattered. She had stepped into the spotlight, faced the judgment and expectations of the room, and had emerged with her talent fully recognized. The music she had played was more than notes and rhythms. It was a story of perseverance, hope, and quiet strength, shared with everyone who had taken the time to listen. She realized that she had not only captivated the audience but had also changed her own perception of herself. People began to approach her, softly at first, offering congratulations and words of admiration. Patrons who had once underestimated her now looked at her with genuine respect. Some asked questions about how long she had been playing, where she had learned her skills, and what inspired her music. The young woman answered politely, modestly, never boasting, but clearly proud of her accomplishment. She noticed that the millionaire had joined the small crowd of admirers, and he gave her a nod of approval and a warm smile that conveyed both respect and encouragement. The energy in the room was palpable. Conversations had resumed, but now they were filled with awe and excitement rather than casual chatter. Patrons shared their impressions with each other, speaking softly but eagerly about the young woman's remarkable talent. The staff, who had witnessed countless performances in the past, were particularly moved. They had seen her work hard day after day, but this moment revealed the full extent of her dedication and skill. It was a reminder that talent often lies hidden beneath the surface, waiting for the right opportunity to shine. The young woman returned to her duties, but the atmosphere had changed. Patrons smiled at her differently, acknowledging her not just as a waitress, but as someone extraordinary. The millionaire, seated nearby, made a small gesture of recognition, signaling that he had seen the value and beauty of her performance. She moved through the restaurant with a quiet confidence, carrying herself with a newfound sense of pride. Every step she took was lighter, more assured, as she realized that her talent had earned the recognition it deserved. Later, as the evening continued, word of her performance spread quickly. Patrons shared the experience with friends and family, some even capturing snippets of her playing on their phones. Social media buzzed with excitement as people recounted the story of the waitress who had turned a simple dare into a breathtaking musical performance. The young woman remained humble, aware that the attention was a result of her passion and dedication rather than any desire for fame. She had played for the joy of music, and the recognition that followed was an unexpected but welcome consequence. The millionaire approached her once more before leaving the restaurant. He praised her talent, acknowledging the courage it took to accept the dare and perform so beautifully. He mentioned that he had seen many performers in his life, but few had the ability to captivate an audience so completely. His words were sincere, and the young woman felt a deep sense of validation. It was not just about the applause or attention. It was about being recognized for the skill and heart she had invested in her craft for so many years. As the night drew to a close, the young woman reflected on what had happened. She realized that she had taken a risk, stepping out of her comfort zone and allowing herself to be vulnerable in front of strangers. In doing so, she had discovered a strength within herself that she had not fully appreciated before. The experience had transformed her, giving her the confidence to continue pursuing her passion and to embrace opportunities that might have seemed intimidating in the past. She understood that talent, courage, and persistence could open doors and create moments of lasting impact. The restaurant gradually emptied, but the memory of her performance lingered. Patrons left with smiles, still talking about the unexpected delight they had experienced. The staff returned to their routines, but the atmosphere had shifted. There was a shared sense of having witnessed something remarkable. The young woman, now alone in the quiet space, took a moment to sit at the piano once more. She ran her fingers lightly over the keys, smiling softly. The music, familiar and comforting, reminded her of the journey she had undertaken and the moment she had shared with everyone in the room. Her thoughts drifted to the countless hours of practice she had devoted to her craft, often in solitude. She realized that each note she played that evening had been shaped by years of dedication, patience, and love for the piano. The recognition she received was a testament not just to her natural ability, but to the discipline and effort she had invested over time. She understood that true talent required both skill and heart, and she felt grateful that she had been able to share both with an audience that appreciated it. As she prepared to leave for the night, the young woman felt a profound sense of accomplishment. She had transformed a playful dare into a moment that would be remembered by everyone present. She had not only showcased her talent, but had also inspired those around her, demonstrating that courage and dedication could reveal hidden potential in the most unexpected ways. The experience had changed her perception of herself and the world, instilling a sense of confidence and purpose that would guide her in the future. Walking home, she reflected on the night's events and the reactions of the audience. She realized that the impact of her performance extended beyond the applause and admiration. It had created a connection between her and those who had listened. Music had the power to communicate emotions and stories in ways words could not, and she had used that power to touch hearts. The memory of the audience's expressions, the astonishment in their eyes, and the warmth of their applause would stay with her forever. The young woman understood that this was only the beginning of her journey. The recognition and opportunities that followed would open doors to new experiences and challenges, each requiring courage and dedication. She felt ready to embrace them, knowing that her talent, when combined with perseverance and passion, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. The evening had proven that even the most unlikely individuals could make a profound impact when they embraced their gifts and shared them fearlessly with the world. As she entered her home, she took a moment to sit quietly, reflecting on the transformation of the evening. The restaurant, the audience, and the millionaire had all played a part in a moment that had revealed the depth of her talent. She felt a sense of fulfillment and anticipation, knowing that her life had shifted in ways that could not be undone. The young woman understood that the piano, once a source of private joy, had become a bridge to new opportunities, recognition, and personal growth. And with that realization, she felt ready to continue her journey, confident that her music would continue to inspire and captivate wherever she shared it.